We need to develop the new normal agenda. We need to talk about universal broadband and digital equity, taking into consideration equity, diversity, and inclusion. We need to talk about workforce development and training. We have people who are not simply out of work because the economy shut down, but because industries are shutting down and automation is shutting down. We need to look at this beyond simply the idea of doing a few workshops. We need to talk about how do we bring people, bridge the cultural divide between high school and college? How do we provide degrees for high school equivalencies? How do we create library schools that aren't about schools to become librarians, but about schools that create citizens in libraries? We need to expand voter access and democratic participation. That should be fundamental to what we do and not simply a political question. We need to ensure the health and well-being of our communities, and in these days, increasingly the mental health and the community wellness service. And by the way, that starts with our own staff. If we're not healthy, if we're not taking care of ourselves, and to be clear, if our institutions are not taking care of us, how can we hope to support our communities? It's not enough to say, take care of yourself. What is your institution? What's the management structure doing? When is it providing time? When is it providing development, treatment? How is it helping your local community? And we need to understand our essential crisis responsibility. We've become first responders in things like weather crises, where we still have power and our buildings can be used for FEMA. But we also need to talk about things like second responders. How do we support the healthcare workers, the frontline workers, the grocers, the drivers, the bus drivers? How do we support them? Ultimately, it's up to us. This knowledge infrastructure, which is so fundamental to how we operate, that's our game. And yes, there are lots of players, and yes, those players have trillion-dollar valuations, and yes, those players have lots of programmers, and yes, those players have apps and phones and hardware, but they need us. We are an essential part of the knowledge infrastructure in education, in commerce, in government, and it's up to us to fix this. We must be weavers of communities and mighty platforms for the stories of our members. We must look at this vital social infrastructure and how it engenders trust through principles and transparency, not through some illusion of neutrality. Let us acknowledge that if you've worked for a better world, you have an idea of what better means, and not be afraid of that. That as librarians, we are important people that are at the conversation because we represent our communities and we are linked and have trust. And that is a value and a brand that no other people have. We must repair the knowledge infrastructure of this country, and through it, we must repair the country itself.